from Nashville, Tennessee. It's time for another episode of Tips, Tactics, and Tools for a Safer Tomorrow, where all things related to your safety and security are discussed, detailed, and delivered to you. You may leave with a tip that saves you money or a tactic that saves your life. So here are your hosts, owner and founder of Defense Systems, Brink Fiddler, and owner and operator of Herring Technology, Tom Herring.
Hey guys, welcome to this edition of Tips, Tactics, and Tools for a Safer Tomorrow. My name is Brink Fiddler, co-host, owner and founder of Defense Systems in Nashville, Tennessee. With me as always, my co-host, owner and operator of Herring Technology, Tom Herring. So today, we don't always do guests on this show, but today we do have a guest that a lot of people are already familiar with, and if you don't recognize him or his name, then when I tell you about him, you will very quickly remember who he is. But our guest today is Michael Collazo, who's with Metro Nashville Police Department in Nashville, Tennessee. And if you're familiar with the Covenant school shooting, is one of the two officers that were involved in taking out the bad guy and discharging their weapons and ending that attack. So it ought to be a good episode. There's an interesting connection here, with Collazo and his role and us and our role, and that we were both kind of involved in that school. So I'm really interested in unpacking that day with you quite a bit. We spoke on the phone for, I don't know, almost an hour and a half not long ago. And I tried not to get too much into some of the stuff because I wanted to save it for today. But first, let's say thanks for being here and welcome. And we appreciate you coming on your willingness to talk about this and you and who you are beyond just, shooting a bad person on March 27th. So appreciate you being here.
No, thank y'all for having me.
Of course. So we're going to do it a little different than we normally do. We're not going to take like a huge deep dive necessarily into, everything about you. But Tom and I talked yesterday, and it is important for people to understand the humanity behind the badge. I did the job, as you well know, in Nashville for almost 20 years. And, I think a lot of people forget, especially people outside of law enforcement, a lot of people forget that, you're husband and a friend and a son, and you watch football and drink beer, and you're just like everybody else. You just have a different job, and people forget that. So I want to dive into kind of who you are a little bit beyond that before we get into obviously the events that everybody already knows about and all that. So you were telling me off camera before we got started, you actually grew up here in Middleton, Tennessee. Okay, and that makes you kind of a unicorn. And as I mentioned to you off camera, also me too. I've been here my entire life, which is not normal these days. There's so many transplants from all over the place.
Mississippi.
Yeah, the backwoods.
I'm guessing that's where you're from.
That's very
Absolutely.
true. Yeah,
and proud.
Yeah,
we carry one of the Dixie Mafias as far as it. No, I'm kidding.
That Dixie song's ours.
That's right.
The country bumpkin over here, who, although he's from Tupelo, right? Mm-hmm. He's like Norm on Cheers. You can't go anywhere with him without somebody being like, Tom, hey, how are you?
I won't go that far.
Oh, dude, it's ridiculous.
That's awesome.
The 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon. We have the 3 degrees of Tom Herring. Somebody always knows Tom somehow or some way. And obviously, he and I got connected just because of what we do for a living. We're in the same world, but we don't compete with each other. And we do a lot of work together. And then I don't remember what year it was. I guess 2019. He called me and said, "Hey, what are you doing?" I'm like, whatever I was doing. I don't remember driving. He goes, "You want to do a podcast with me?" I'm like,
there you
sure.
go. That's how they usually start.
Yeah, no problem.
We didn't have anything else to do.
Yeah. So we did this. I told you off air. We did this pretty regular for several years, or a couple of years, and then COVID, and then we got really busy, both of us. But we just recently resurrected this thing, so that's kind of how we came to be where we are. But so you grew up here, and tell me about did you?
It was different. It's different growing up here now than what it is.
Yeah, well, I agree,
honest,
but
I just I found it funny when you said the unicorn statement that we actually have a term for it now that nobody actually that still lives or people that live here usually aren't actually didn't grow up here their entire life, so we give it a title now. But no, I did. I grew up Laverne, just on the outskirts of Nashville. family. Had a brother, half sister, mother, father. They're still together, married for, goodness, 40, 50 years now.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, they still live in the same house we grew up in.
That's cool.
But, like you said, just a unicorn to this area.
Yeah, so were you into sports?
I wrestled in high school. Did that for, 2 years? Yeah, my junior and senior year. So I got into it. I got started in that really late, but it was still fun.
Yeah. So,
hey, wait a minute. I believe you were in school government too, weren't you?
You could say that.
Okay.
I don't know about this. I didn't do enough research, so sorry.
Yeah, so I actually, being honest, like middle school, I was a little bad kid.
Like a hellion?
Yeah.
Sure.
Freshman year, same thing, but then like a switch flipped, and it was because of a teacher. Miss V, she's awesome.
Was that your English teacher?
No, that was Miss Lay.
Okay.
But it's so funny that I still remember these two teachers' names. Miss V actually reached out to me after everything, and I went to Laverne and talked with her a little bit. But she actually got me into student council and got me involved in that. And like I said, that switch flipped, and I actually grew up. And sophomore year up to senior year, I actually wasn't causing problems, got my grades good, did everything right because she actually helped me out and got me into student council. Ended up being, I think it was the treasurer. And I was like, so you're going to trust me with money? That's a great idea. I'm like 15, 16 years old.
Yeah.
Okay. But in all reality, like it was a good lesson learned on stuff. So I learned some good stuff.
I think most people know this that have been to school, but I think it's important for teachers to hear it. It's amazing the impact that they have.
Oh, yeah.
Unbelievable. And Tom, that's actually Tom's background. Tom was a high school biology teacher and soccer coach at FRA, right? And
I hated biology.
So
me too, but they had an opening. I just wanted to coach.
But I think there's something to be said for, I don't think we tell our teachers enough. We work with a lot of teachers. We've trained over 200 schools to date now, and teachers, you got to know your audience, but I don't think they're told often enough, the impact that they have.
Oh yeah.
And obviously Miss V had a huge impact on you.
And that's what's crazy. Yeah. There was 3, Miss V, Miss O, and Miss Lay. And those 3, if it wasn't for those 3 helping me, I bet there would have been a different path.
Yeah.
And they never really hear about, like you said, they don't know, hey, whatever happened to them after they left school. It's gotten better now with social media. They, Facebook, Instagram, whatnot, they can all kind of see where their kids are going. But when everything happened, Miss V was like, I knew there was good in you when we saw when
That's
you
cool.
were like in high school and trying to teach. So she was amazing, and they all were, and helped me out. So.
Yeah. So at what point in school I know you ended up going to the Marine Corps, but at what point in school did you say military's for me? Or
After I graduated.
Okay. Well, what did you do after you graduated?
Sometimes I make spur of the moment decisions.
Yeah.
And that was one of them. We were hanging out. I think there was a group of us. We were at like a bonfire, and we were all just talking. I had another buddy that was joining already. I was kind of in that mindset of like, what am I going to do with my life?
Is this like summer after high school? Or
Yeah.
Okay.
Like this
so
is
you had just graduated.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just trying to
college wasn't a...
College was there.
Okay.
I had taken the ACT. That was my saving grace. I had good grades, but it was trying to catch up from my shenanigan years. And ACT, I was able to get high enough to get the Hope Scholarship. That was like a thing that was started up with the lottery. So I was good on that end, but I was just like, I don't know. So I ultimately just made the decision, talked with family, talked to my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, and just was like, look, I need something different. And looked at all the branches, but that's the one that stuck out. Might have been because of the dress blues, because they look awesome. So I just straight up was like, hey, I want a challenge. And in all honesty, that was probably one of the toughest things I'd ever gone through. And it was really a gut check and get you mentally prepared just for life in general outside of everything else. So joined the Marine Corps, actually did the reserve route, because college was open for me, and that was like an agreement me and my mother had in it, because again, spur of the moment, she's like, look, I want you to go to school, but I understand that's what you want to also do. So I actually got back and I went to college, got my degree, and stayed in the reserves. Ended up jumping on some ADOS orders, which is just like active duty orders, for a while. Did that for a little bit, and then ultimately around 2013, the department I was kind of getting towards the end of my contract and trying to figure out what I was going to do next, and got online. I remember I was sitting in my parents' living room just trying to figure out what I was going to do next. And I got online and was like, well, what's it like to be a cop? And I came up to Metro Nashville Police Department's page. I was like, looked at it, applied, and a couple months later heard back, and everything kind of timed up right when I was getting out, and I was able to go right into the police academy. So worked out perfect.
Went back up a little bit. You go to Paris Island, I guess?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I did.
Yeah. I went straight from UT Knoxville to the police academy. I had maybe 6 weeks in between the police academy and college graduation. So I didn't have any experience, much like you going to, I don't know what to expect. I had some friends that were on the department, and so I kind of knew what they did to you in the police academy or whatever. But I had a very good friend who went to Paris Island when he was 23, which is old, obviously, for Paris Island, comparatively speaking. And so I've again, I don't know, I've never been there, but I know a lot of what they do to you there.
A lot of fun games were played.
Yeah.
A lot of fun games.
Yeah, but a good gut check to your point. And you told me off camera you did the infantry route, and then so when you went on orders, what were you doing when you went active duty?
So it was really just whatever the command staff needed, and it was just as like an augment of helping out.
Okay.
Like they're shorthanded, so hey, you can jump on for 3 months, you can jump on for 6 months, and you're just there to fill a billet or fill a spot and help them out, whether it's in the supply room or if it's doing something admin related.
Okay.
Just here locally, which was great.
That's what I was going to ask you.
Like continue doing things and stay in school while still doing that.
Yeah.
I was just using it for what it was there for, to be honest. Like the military helped me out tremendously.
Yeah.
Like it's a great resource for you. So I took all the advantages I could of it.
Where did you do school, college?
So I actually went to Motlow
Yeah.
and did a little bit at MTSU.
Okay.
So
And still able to serve in the Marines at the same time. What's your degree in?
So I'm dumb and did the law enforcement. So
Well, I'm right there,
it's not
dumb
gonna
with
go,
you.
I can't do it for anything else. It doesn't matter.
No, I when I went to UT Knoxville, they didn't have a criminal justice degree.
Yeah.
The closest thing they had was sociology with a concentration in criminal justice, which, by the way, folks, that's a useless degree.
Yep.
If you're not going to be a door kicker your whole life, don't get that degree if you ever have any chance of going into business or starting your own business, because that did nothing for me.
Law enforcement will take you with any degree.
Or no degree.
Yeah, or not a degree.
I mean, yeah. So, yeah, just it made sense to me at the time, but it didn't help me at all. So you applied for Metro in 2013, is that what you said?
Yeah, well, that would have been 2012. Yeah.
Okay.
2012, because I started the academy in 13, so that put me at my graduation year and everything.
Okay. So we did cross paths.
Yeah, probably for a little bit.
Oh, yeah. I definitely, I would have taught your narcotics investigation class that you had at the academy. And then on your practicums, remember the practicums you guys got to do?
Yeah.
You remember the drug call at the White House?
Yeah.
I usually ran those.
I got yelled at during those.
So, well, we all did. So yeah, we definitely. I didn't know what time you. So we crossed paths by a few years, which is good. But so you got out of the academy, and then just so people that aren't law enforcement know, you. I guess they still do 3 rotations.
They did when I was there. Okay. Now I don't know.
Okay.
It's changed a lot. But yeah, we did the 3 rotations.
Where you ride
FTOs.
with a training officer, different shifts, different precincts, kind of learning, the ropes or whatever. And then you eventually get cut loose on patrol on your own. And then where were you when you got?
I got lucky, but at the time I didn't think it was lucky. I was like, man, I'm getting shafted.
Yeah.
So I did my 3 rotations I started off in West, then I went to East, and then I went to Central, and then from Central we had to do a 4th one, and that 4th one was technically like you're by yourself. And
it's still on probation, but you're on.
You're on your own. They're like, don't do anything dumb for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, because then you get protected by.
But in 2.5 weeks, be as dumb as you want.
Yes.
So stupid.
So then I went to Hermitage. So I was like, all right, I got day shift. I've got a good detail in Hermitage precinct. It's close to home as well. I'm on the southern side of the county, and Midtown opened, and they said, no, you're going to Midtown. It's like, oh, great. You're going to evening or afternoon shift, the B detail. You're going to be the newest.
For people that don't know, that's 3 to 11.
Yeah, you're going to be the newest guy. Have fun. I was like, thanks.
Yeah.
They had promised me a car at Hermitage.
Oh, yeah.
Decent days off. So I was kind of excited. And then the next day, they're like, hey, everything I told you was a lie. You're going somewhere else. I was like, great. I don't know anything about this precinct. But come to find out, that was probably like one of the best things that could have happened for the department. Like for me within the department is getting sent there. So.
Yeah, people that don't know Nashville, so the Central Precinct is basically just downtown Nashville, so it's a lot of touristy stuff. Hermitage has a nice blend, right? I mean, depending on what part of Hermitage Precinct is massive, by the way, but if parts of Hermitage are just typical residential, commercial, shopping areas, all that kind of stuff. You've got
the lake.
Yep. Tennessee Law Enforcement Training Academies. I mean, but then you also, that Hermitage goes all the way to downtown to Lower Lafayette, which, has, a lot of housing projects and high crime areas. And so depending on what part of Hermitage you work in, one could be, somewhat slow versus high speed as you want it to be. But then Midtown, pretty much all. I mean, you could, I guess, just go to work and answer your calls, but you're still going to be answering some hot calls. You're not going to be, helping old ladies cross the street probably as much.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. It was good for me. I don't know if I was ready to be on my own. Like, I was young, I was fresh out of the academy, and you're going to put me in Hermitage. Okay. Hermitage, North, South, those were the hot precincts. That's where you're going to hot calls constantly. You're bouncing back and forth, and you've got to be ready. Midtown was a little bit slower. I was able to get my feet wet a little bit more and learn a little bit more. They brought a lot of folks to that precinct from other agencies from other precincts that had a lot of seniority. So I was able to take a lot of advice from people on the back end, kind of like sit there and just watch them and help me develop even more than what the FTOs had done. So that's what I'm saying. I'm like, it's kind of a blessing in disguise.
Midtown's kind of unique, and I don't know where the lines are, but you have high crime areas, certainly. But then you also have Music Row, and then you also have
Green Hills,
which was going to be lower crime, higher net worth people. Kind of the I know one guy in particular that lives in Green Hills is a little snobby, but no, I'm kidding. But so you're in Midtown, are you? Are you in Midtown?
Yeah,
okay.
I'm Midtown.
So it's a really good blend of stuff. But you could get into a lot of stuff in certain parts of Midtown, no question. But the old Central back in the day was basically everything inside the downtown loop. So it had all housing projects, and it was you'd learn more there in a year than you would anywhere else.
Well, and that's what I look at too. I mean, even with a metropolitan, and I'm not just trying to like fluff Nashville PD as we are, whatnot. Yes, it's where I work, but the experience and the knowledge you get, let's just say in 6 months with our agency compared to where I grew up in Laverne with their agency.
Sure.
You might not get that for 5 years.
Right.
It's a wide variety.
And that was changed
great. Yeah.
In the last 15 years.
Yeah.
Nashville's different.
It is. It's crazy. I could drive down in North Nashville off of Buchanan and be like, wow, I was just here 6 months ago driving down this road and none of this was here. None of these tall and skinnies, none of these buildings, and now they're completely different. And then vice versa, driving on Nolensville Pike, I'm like, where did that restaurant pop up at?
Well, as I say, we now have professional homeless people. We have real ones. It's not, back in the old days, you knew them all. You knew who it was, and the same over. Now there's real ones.
The one guy that is constantly on the news. He drives like a minivan or something, and he'll park on the interstates and act like he's broke down. He keeps getting arrested, and they keep pushing all this stuff. Like, if you see this guy, he is a scam artist. I'm like, yeah, well.
Does he have the gas can with him?
No, he just pops the hood and acts like it's broke down.
We used to have one that dressed in business attire, and he kept his gas can out there. And, I mean, they'd move him, and we'd go back over, same guy.
But we have the same problems this is in every city.
Oh, absolutely.
All these issues
There's nothing new.
Yeah, but in real, like Nashville is a big city with a small town atmosphere. I love it.
It's the biggest small town areas. That's what I always say.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, like, Nashville, we have like all the stuff you want to do, right? All the entertainment district, like
it's only growing.
You can do all those things, but you can literally drive from there and go 20 minutes and you'll be in a cow pasture.
Yep. Go out on 840 and go to the winery. And then you can turn around and come back the next day and go to a game.
We got it all. But yeah, there also used to be a game played back in the day with the homeless people or the drunks, that you just are so tired of taking the booking, There may have been a time when they got dropped off at the county line and were told to walk that way or walk that way.
These are stories that I hear.
Oh,
these are stories.
I said
now,
maybe.
Yeah, and now there's policies, and I'm like, so the people that are making these policies are probably the ones that we're hearing stories about.
1,000%. Yeah. Now, whether or not they'll admit it.
Yeah.
But
well, we can go back to the NFL Yes campaign before the Titans were here.
Yeah.
And for that election, and everyone was coming in from out there. Let's just say there was a push to gather them up and get to the bus station.
Yes, there was.
A one-way ticket.
Tell me about this new stadium, though. You just brought them up. Like, hey, it's going to bring a lot to the city. And that East Bank, all that, I'm actually kind of excited. I want to see what's going to happen. See if the city's going to grow even more. Our interstates are ruined. We know that. Traffic's going to be horrible, but...
Well, it already is.
Yeah.
That's my only thing. We've grown too fast. We don't have the infrastructure to support what's here already now.
And how do you fix it now with what's already here? That's
No, Madison and I today, leaving the legislature, which is why I'm dressed this way normally, as you know, but most people watching know, I don't normally dress like this.
Yes, you.
No, you're such a liar.
Metrosexual.
But how many things have I been called today, right? By you specifically, whether I'm in front of me or not. But anyway, just trying to get here from the legislature was pretty ridiculous.
30 minutes?
I don't.
You're maybe a mile away.
Plus, Madison and I were both like hangry at that point, so that didn't help things, obviously. But I'm interested. I think it makes us more of a potential target for bad stuff to happen because of all the entertainment districts and all the stuff that we have. So,
well, we have that entertainment district unit now.
Yeah.
And I actually was just on the phone with one of their sergeants, and he's just trying to come up with new ideas, innovative ideas for the training for the EDU officers down there.
Yeah.
Especially with what just happened in New Orleans.
Sure.
He's like, hey, we've got this stuff, but I want to be more prepared. I want to be innovative in my thinking, if you want to say, as a sergeant with my folks. And we were just spitballing ideas.
Yeah.
But, I mean, kudos to them.
Amen.
I was like, man, like you're going above and beyond what just a normal sergeant should be doing just to make sure your folks are ready.
Yeah.
So they're doing mock stuff, whatever they can kind of get their hands on and trying to prep. And he's doing the table talks. I'm like, perfect. But what's the city doing as well?
Well, and you said normal sergeant stuff. So that's the difference between being a regular sergeant and being a leader.
Yeah.
I mean, just because you're a sergeant, just because you're a lieutenant, just because you're a captain doesn't mean you're a leader. And those are two different things. So, we've got all the transplants coming in. I imagine from the wildfires, we're going to have probably a lot more Californians rolling in. Either way, we're excited about it too. But Tom and I operate in a world that's usually negative and dark, and people don't get us involved in whatever's happening with them because they've had a good day. Usually, it's usually the opposite, or they're preparing for their worst day. I mean, we as in defense systems train people to face their worst day, and obviously after March 27th, we had that happen. Tom's company helps people try and prevent, and if not prevent, respond to their worst day as well. So I'm with you. Like, I'm excited about it, but it also makes me apprehensive.
Yeah. Well, there was even talks about putting a substation on the riverfront.
I don't think it's a bad idea at all.
We are not, like, what do we have on the river?
Nothing.
Like, we'll be on the river for big events. But even on a Wednesday night downtown, how many people are there?
Oh,
20, 30,000 easily?
I don't go down there.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't want to go down there. And that's not because it's bad. I'm not a tourist.
Yeah.
You can catch me on the outskirts.
Yeah.
You can catch me on like 5 Points or something nice.
Yeah.
Not down there.
We take visitors down there when they come to town.
Well, I don't want to get stuck behind a tractor that's doing 2 miles an hour with people hanging on the back drinking.
There might be video
of you in a hot tub
out there.
Up
No.
the truck?
No. Somebody in a UTV, Polaris Ranger, driving down Broadway during a snow day, right? Pulling some drunk people on a inner tube like you would pull behind, a boat. Because there may be a business owner that on a snow night drove his UTV downtown just because that's what you do.
We went to it was after the
you
Christmas
gotta explain
bombing.
yourself.
One of our clients is on second. Avenue, and
You're just showing them a good time.
we had to go check on the building because it was unsecure right then, outside of
Sounds like
FBI
an
and ATF.
emergency.
It was an emergency, and these drunks asked us. They had provided the inner tube.
So you were
and all
also
clear-
being a good Samaritan.
correct. And the metro officer that we stopped for, because on ice he had no way of ever catching us. And as he pulls up beside us,
How much was that ticket? Just go ahead and tell
Oh
us.
no, it wasn't a ticket. He pulled up and he goes, Mr. Herring?
It's awesome.
I was like, we're checking on a site. And he goes, please.
There it is.
He goes, anywhere but Broadway.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, man. This is like Leroy riding that stud up and down Broadway.
Well, it's
man.
funny. You know how we just had that snowstorm? Did you see the guy that tried to snowboard down Broadway?
No.
No.
He was like this whole thing. He was all over social media, talking to the news, says, hey, if this weather gets bad enough and, everything gets shut down, I am going to snowboard down Broadway. Never did it.
Oh.
I was like, good job, man. You hyped us all up for nothing.
Well, I beat him because we did inner tube down it on the UTV, and the snowplow snapped the rope as it drove through us. But
Yep.
I'll see. Did you file a claim?
no,
It wasn't his rope.
Oh, you took it? Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think I still got some time on that for theft.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, maybe. Well,
It's on video though. That's
Yeah, just keep digging a grave.
yeah. When you do when your company does the cameras on Broadway, it's
true.
like
Those cameras are amazing.
I was under my own evidence.
well, which means you can also make it go away. So,
No, can't say that. Yeah, hit that.
do we have a dump button? I don't think we do. That's only live. We have a dump button, right? Yeah, we don't have a dump button. Whatever.
Those indictments will come down sooner or later.
That's right.
Don't worry.
Let's circle back to your time at Midtown. So, how long did you do in patrol? Just kind of becoming a new officer.
I got blessed. I did roughly a year and a half.
Okay.
I had a really good sergeant. I don't know if you knew him, Sergeant Rucker. I don't know if you knew Ed Rucker.
Oh, Ed?
Yeah.
Sure.
Amazing. He
good dude.
Come here, buddy. I'm like, yes, sir. He saw again. He was like, man, you're going. You want to constantly go. I don't know if it was ADD or what, but I was always call. Hey, can I go do this, Sarge? Buddy, just go. Like, thanks, sir. But he saw that in me, and there was a flex opening.
Okay. Yeah.
So I did patrol for about a year and a half on B detail, that afternoon shift, and then there was an opening for the midnight flex. And he said, hey, we recommended you to go to that. So I actually got pulled from patrol to flex. And flex, it was, proactive, still in uniform, but we drove the unmarked Impalas.
Yep.
We didn't answer calls, but it was more of...
Well, you didn't answer hot calls, but your job
Yes.
wasn't to answer calls.
No, yeah.
Yep.
We were there to be a supplement to patrol. If patrol was on the scene and they needed extra personnel for security reasons or to block a road or anything like that, we would help. But in the meantime, hey, we're having issues with break-ins, or we're having issues with robberies, we're having issues with this and that. Go out there and enforce it.
Yeah.
Or stop folks, do anything that y'all can in these areas. And that's what we did, and we had a blast. That was where I really learned, outside of the Marine Corps taught us, small unit leadership. They taught us, working in teams and doing everything. Patrol, you're by yourself.
Yeah.
You're an individual. You might have a partner come with you to the call, but that's your call. They're just there to back you. Flex brought back that team mindset.
Yeah.
So it was 5 of us with a sergeant and our Sergeant Earls. I don't know if you knew Alan Earls. Okay. He was out north probably when you were around.
Okay.
On their flex before he got promoted and came to us. But he trusted us. He's like, y'all are grown adults. You know law. We're entrusting y'all to do your job. Go on and prosper. Yeah. Left us alone. And our team jailed. We had a good group. And we would just go out there and have fun.
Yeah.
Ultimately, we were very proactive. We made some decent cases as a flex team, and that's where you kind of make your mistakes. When you're pushing that what I know and just trying to learn more.
Sure.
Going to court, testifying, and learning your mistakes. Hey, I probably shouldn't have done this. I didn't intend for that, but this is what I should have done. I should have got a search warrant, anything like that. You learn that there.
A preliminary hearing is a great way for your mistakes to be pointed out by the defense attorneys, especially Rich McGee, but there are several others out there.
I learned a lot from Rich.
100%. Same. I mean, the Fourth Amendment is a thing. For people that don't know, I don't know if it's every police academy, but Metro Police Academy, you cover the equivalent of a first-year law school in 12 weeks.
Yeah.
And most
we're
of
going to make mistakes.
Most of it's Fourth Amendment, but it should be, right? Search and seizure stuff, because that's the way that's the world we operate in, or I used to, and they do. And so there's a lot to it.
Yep.
But I'd certainly, being on a proactive unit, searching cars, getting dope, guns, consent search versus search warrant of a house, all those things, that's certainly where you're going to learn.
And nothing like mistake wise that we made was ill intent.
Sure.
It was just, hey, I just didn't know, or just an overlook.
Yeah.
And we learned a lot, and that kind of was seen by our CSU personnel. They saw all of us. They saw what we were doing, and then we had an open
CSU
crime suppression.
It used to be.
Yep.
Crime suppression unit. It's a plainclothes, basically narcotics undercover unit at the precinct level, primarily focused on narcotics, but not just narcotics, prostitution, stuff like that too. But just for people that don't know what CSU is, I operated in that realm for a little while as well. It's a fun unit.
It was, and it's another team one.
Yeah, 100%.
So I ultimately got pulled from Flex to CSU.
Okay. What year was this?
That would have been.
Do you remember how long you were on Flex?
So 13, Academy, 15. So it had to have been 2017, 2018.
Okay.
Pulled to CSU in that time. Actually, it might have been January 1 of 2018.
Okay.
Got pulled to CSU at Midtown and was there up until it got rebranded and renamed around 21.
Yeah.
22-ish when they named us the Field Intelligence Team.
Is that when Josh Black was with y'all?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Black was with us. Yes, because Black took Edmondson's spot.
Okay.
Yep. So when we were CSU, I had Valquette as a supervisor at first.
Oh, Matt
Valquette.
Yeah. He worked for me at North CSU back in the day.
So worked with him for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
He was relocated to a precinct, and then Mud Edmondson was asked to take his spot.
Okay.
So he was our sergeant for a little while, and he kind of brought in that intelligence-based policing mindset. Hey, instead of just going to an area and throwing a net and seeing what we can catch, like, why don't we focus on things?
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of fresh and new, and we started actually moving away from drugs and vice activity more into robberies and shootings and helping the precinct down in those routes and saying, like, look, yeah, these guys are committing, they are selling drugs, but they're also the ones that are most likely doing the shootings and the robberies. Mm-hmm. So we started targeting that aspect of investigations and helping them out on that. Department liked it, ran with it. We worked a really big robbery case. We indicted, it was like 5 co-defendants on over 100+ indictments for robberies spanning back to, like, I think the latest one was 2016.
Wow.
And we're in 21, 22.
Yeah.
And it was, one guy was from Fort Campbell, was enlisted, came down here right after high school, and he's like, man, I've been doing this since high school, robbing folks.
Wow.
And he was doing his like pre-surveillance, everything. He'd go there, he'd pick certain locations. If a light was out, that's normally night out, he would call it and be like, no, we're not going. And he'd tell his crew, back up, we're going to go do it. We're going to go another day.
Were they robbing people or stores? Or?
Yeah, so their MO, and you can look it up, their MO was Hispanics.
Okay.
They would target Hispanic males on either Thursday, Friday night after payday.
Yep.
And they'd pull into the apartment complexes. They knew, hey, payday, they usually get paid in cash, especially if they're here illegally. They can't get a bank account or anything like that, so they're going to have cash on them. They'll sit in the parking lot. They'll watch them park. They got out. They would just run right up on them. They had comms with each other. They would have one would have a rifle, one would have just like a pistol, so they can go hands on. They'd put them on the ground, take all their stuff, tell them not to move.
What do you mean by comms? They had radios?
They had radios.
Okay.
Yep. So we ultimately worked that for a long time, a couple years. Finally got enough on the indictments, took all it to grand jury, indicted everybody, and then we just started wrapping them all up one by one.
And you obviously got confessions if the guy's in there.
We did. One of the main guys, we set an interview with him for a little while, and he admitted all that. And what messed them up, the funniest thing that got them caught, was they were selfish. Or not even selfish. Yeah, you can say selfish. They were getting thousands of dollars on these robberies.
Oh, yeah.
They would take their cell phones, and they wanted more money. So they'd go to a kiosk at Kroger and drop the phone, get $5 for an iPhone 12, iPhone 11, and they would actually take their driver's license and scan it.
Oh,
and
nice.
that's how they got caught. That's how we were able to narrow down who they were and then worked it from there.
Well, I don't know if you remember the case or not, but there was an officer that was shaking down Hispanics. They called him Shrek.
Yeah, we heard about it.
Yeah, so we were involved in that. We had an informant that we stumbled into that case with the FBI, but he was doing the same thing. He was a Metro officer, but he was shaking down Hispanics because for all those reasons, they're less likely to report, especially if they're illegal. They're just all the things, and of course, you want to make a good quality law enforcement unit drop everything they're doing, put a dirty cop in front of them, and we will drop everything to get that SOB, because it's
a black eye on all of us.
100%.
Right.
And if your entire career is based on your word, which it is as a police officer, I mean, everything is your word, then the second somebody damages that reputation-wise, then, yeah, we would stop everything we were doing. Of course, what I used to do in the drug task force, we did a lot of wires, a lot of wiretaps. For people that don't know what that is, that's listening to bad guys' phones.
It's like the most invasive thing we can do.
100%, which is why it's
heavily scrutinized. Or not scrutinized.
No.
Heavily overwatched.
It is, and it should be.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing more invasive than the only thing more invasive than that is if I put cameras in your house. Besides that, listening to every single one of your phone calls, that should be like the standard there should be really high, and it was, and still is, because that's like it's very invasive. But as a result of that, I mean, you ended up stumbling across a lot of dirty cops or dirty judge or whatever, because you're listening to all the phone calls out there, and that's a huge black eye for all of us. But it's an interesting shift for CSU to go to CFIT, but then to see the shift in proactive targeting. At the end of the day, I mean, it all affects the community in a good way if you guys are out there stopping bad guys from doing bad things to innocent people.
Yeah, and I mean, and that was, you were probably around too when stats were a thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. What's the point, in all reality, of stopping an old lady driving down the road with the brake light out? I can just tell her, hey, fix your brake light real fast. I get there's traffic reasons. It can cause an accident, little things like that. But when we're stopping that same car 5 times in a day because it's driving on Nolensville Pike and there's 5 officers lined up on Nolensville Pike, that's a problem.
Yeah.
But it was stat driven. And then when we started actually like, hey, no, focus on the ones that are causing the problems, let everybody else live their lives.
Yeah.
And that's what we kind of did. And that's when, like you said, Josh Black came along. Edmondson, he ultimately got promoted. He left, and then Black filled his spot for us.
Okay.
And he took our team and made it even 10 times better than what it was.
Yeah.
Changed a lot for us.
He's a very squared away guy.
I'm scared of him.
He teaches for me.
I'm scared of him. He's my neighbor. I'm scared of him.
Oh, I don't know. He's a good guy. I'd be a good guy to have as a neighbor.
Oh, yeah.
He's, for people that don't know.
Remind me to tell you about his Christmas party for us, but yeah.
Uh-oh.
Well, for those that don't know, he's now the field commander of the SWAT team.
Yes.
I don't know if you met him or no. He'd been in here when he was your sergeant. He came in here, and we introduced him to your capabilities and stuff.
Okay.
Yep.
He is one of the nicest, scariest gentlemen you will ever meet.
Very capable.
Yes.
We call him T-1000.
Yes.
Because he's very monotone. So they tease him that he's like a robot,
I have seen him laugh 2 times.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Waterman made him laugh one time, and he'll never forget it.
That's the scary people.
Yes.
Oh, no, he's just a great guy. He jokes about it when he's teaching. He actually has a slide that he shows when he starts teaching. You guys seen Castaway, of course, right? Mm-hmm. Wilson,
Yeah.
the volleyball. So he puts a slide up of that and says that my wife says this is me because I'd be fine on an island by myself, never talking to anybody. And my voice is what it is. This is the voice God gave me. So you're just going to have to deal with it because it doesn't change the tone at all. But he's an amazing human, and he's funny, and he's smart, and he's a good leader.
God, he's so smart. No, so when he was our sergeant, he came. It was around Christmas. He was like, "Hey, we're gonna have a Christmas party at my house." All of us on the team kind of looked over and were like, "We're going to Sarge's house. We're gonna see Sarge's house. Holy crap, this is awesome! He's gonna invite us to his house." And then it was probably like an hour before the party time. He didn't tell us anything. He just said, "Hey, just be ready around this time." It's like, okay, we had a general idea where he lived, and I knew he was the neighborhood over from where I am. everybody else is like West Nashville. We had one that lived in North, and they're like, all right, well, we're going to start making our way down towards that general area. We don't know where we're going once we kind of get there. He goes, I'll tell you when it's ready. We're like, okay. He goes, you'll learn my address when time permits. I'm like, okay. So everyone's starting to make their way. He was having fun with us. Yeah. And as some of the guys got close, like, hey, we're getting close. He goes, all right, you can Google it now. Here's the address. And he goes, better yet, why don't you just go on Google Maps and look at it? When you go on Google Maps and look, it's just a blur. Yeah. He blurred his house. He's like, now delete this message. And everybody gets to his house, and we're like, this is awesome. He's an amazing guy. He showed us his woodwork that he does. Like, he legitimately brought that leadership mindset to us on our team and kind of guided a bunch of us. Yeah. And he was with us for a short period of time.
Yeah, he was a Marine too. Yeah. Right? Yeah, before he was Secret Service and then he came to Metro.
This is a Josh Black. He was our sergeant. We were at the Red Roof Inn on Sitco. Guy had stolen a car, almost hit an officer. We found him at the hotel. We go and we put on like janitor type clothes. We go knock on the door. He opens the door. We're like, all right, PID. He's in there. I'm like, hey, sorry, we thought y'all were already gone. We're supposed to clean this or something dumb excuse. Sure. Come back to the car. I'm like, hey, Sarge, he's in there. It's like, all right, surround it. Let's go. So we do the whole surround and call out. He's not coming out. So SWAT starts rolling, getting everything set up. Black being black. As the Bearcats doing their thing, they are pulling in, taking our spots. He's commanding everything. He gets a call from Chief that he's getting promoted. As he's on the phone with Chief, he goes, hey, sir, I'm going to have to call you back. We have this whole situation going on, but thanks. Yeah. Took his promotion call while in the middle of a scene. Yeah. It's like, no, I got business.
And probably never missed a beat or was distracted at all.
Did not. Once everything was done, he pulled us all to the side. He goes, hey, by the way, while all that was going on, I got a call. I'm getting promoted. We'll figure out what's going to happen with the team.
Yeah. Is that the one they ended up shooting?
No.
Okay.
No, that was probably a little bit later. I think that might have been a couple months later. I think
that was the hotel?
Yeah, and that was with Titans. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I can't keep up.
It changes every day.
Not that area.
No.
Yes.
Okay, so you were CFIT, which was CSU, but basically on that unit, no matter what it's called, 2018 until
23. Sorry. I was thinking, I was like trying to do some math real fast again. But yeah. So 2018 to 23.
Post Covenant, you moved, right?
Yes.
Just because.
Yeah. I stayed during that transition. CSU, you used to have the 3-year rule. Mm-hmm. You were 3 years at that unit with CSU because of the money aspect and dealing with funds and everything like that. And
time out. So just so people understand what we're talking about. So you have access to buy money, and you're using informants and undercover work, and you don't have an automatic vehicle locator. You're given a lot of freedom. And there was, and I voiced my strong opposition to the 3-year rotation thing at the time. Apparently, there was a unit somewhere that weren't supervised enough, turned dirty, whatever else, and this chief or whoever spoke at this conference told all these other chiefs, like, rotate your people. That's the only. Well, when you do that, you rotate out all the experience. So eventually you get people, the most experienced dude on that unit is 3 years, and he's gone. So you end up with a ton of people with no experience at all, including supervisors that have no experience. They make these guys supervisors, and, first day on the job, they're like, hey, we got the search warrant. Sarge, we review it. And he may have never seen a search warrant in his life.
And we've had that.
100%.
But the intent was to, obviously, if you stayed there longer, you have the opportunity to embed, become.
That's one aspect, yeah. But there's others, but.
That was the driving force behind the original idea. But my argument was, if you're dirty, you're dirty.
Exactly.
So, like you're going to be dirty day 1 or year 4. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, and then have a bunch of inexperienced people writing search warrants and doing the most invasive things we can do.
Look
to people.
What happened. I mean, we, on all that we've had that one that was taking money, and then they disbanded the whole team.
Yeah.
You can't punish the whole team for one person's actions.
Yeah.
If they're dirty, they're dirty. Yeah. But we also had, we had that bad search warrant.
Yeah.
We had an officer who had no experience in writing search warrants. Took it to somebody that did not really have a lot of experience in search warrants either, and said, yeah, this looks good to me. Did no pre-surveillance, had no pre-knowledge on anything involving the residents, and had stale probable cause, if you want to say, and things went awry. And
they had a door, and the suspect hadn't lived there in how long?
It'd been a little bit. I don't know the exact time frame.
Not weeks.
Yeah,
it'd been a little bit.
And they smashed this door in, so. I mean, and the judges are limited by the scope of what's in the affidavit, so they don't.
Those
know.
four corners. That's all they know.
So it's not really on them. It was on that. It's on that officer and on that supervisor. To be honest with you.
Well, I just want to clarify. I was the 3-year thing making them move out because of their opportunity. I was getting confused with.
Yeah, no, it was just
Congress.
a rule. Yeah, it was just a rule.
With Congress. Oh.
Yeah, I thought that's what we were referring to. Term limits that might be needed to switch out. But
no, but I mean, it's gone now. That 3-year rule's gone, and it was
good.
It was leaving when we were there. It was like, listen, y'all have got the knowledge and the experience. Stay, and we did. And when we transitioned to the CFIT mindset, we stayed and we kept going, but we also realized, like, hey, we do have that knowledge, we do have that experience, let's keep it going with others. So it was nothing for us to pull somebody over or pull somebody from patrol and temporarily assign them to us and just show them things. Like, we're not secretive anymore. Now we know when there's times to be secretive and not disclose things and have, like, hey, no, this door, you don't open that door, you got to have a pass to get in, those type atmospheres. We still do that, but I can show somebody a search warrant and let them review it to get some knowledge.
100%.
And provide it to them. This isn't, they're not going to steal my case. If they steal my case, cool. Well, let's just go open up another one somewhere else. It's a big city. We can find something.
Yeah. Well, and that's beneficial not just for the department to be more well-rounded and more knowledgeable, but that's a direct benefit to this community.
Yeah.
If your police department's more talented, more knowledgeable, like... Since when have you ever held your tongue?
I know, just say it.
It affects us a lot of times being in the private sector, not from law enforcement. We battle this a lot of times, and a lot of times it's egos.
Egos got to go out the window.
And it's like, hey, if we all work together, we can solve a whole lot more.
I can't tell you how many times I get upset about that. When I'll see somebody, like you mentioned earlier, just because you have a shiny thing on your collar or you got a couple stripes on your shoulder doesn't mean you're a leader.
No.
Yeah.
And I'll see them. We'll go out somewhere and you'll see a security guard. And I'm just saying that because the different sides of the world. You'll see a security guard doing something. And they'll be like, well, you're not a cop. You can go stand there. Hey, how about that's somebody that can help us?
That's right.
Exactly. Let's work together here. Doesn't matter. Like, I'm not going to ask him to go in with me. Don't get me wrong. But, hey, can you stand right here, watch this while I go do this?
Yep.
Perfect. Gotcha. Work together. Because they might be able to pop the cameras up like you got right here and tell us where we need to go and what's going on.
Well, that's what I always want to say is like, hey, bud, let me just tell you, we can show you everything before you even walk in.
Yes.
You know, and from your military side, you know that. You're used to that. That's Adam and I were talking about that earlier with, ISR in the military.
Yeah. And
from the law enforcement side, so many times, and generally it's with experienced ones that are from the old day of, no, we got this.
Yeah, we still get a little bit of that. Even in the narcotics world still, we get that.
Definitely.
Hey, I know what I'm doing. This is my case.
Yeah.
Hey, man, we're here to help.
Yeah.
I'm an extra body. You can't do this job by yourself.
Amen.
So
a lot of that comes from case stealing in the past and, a lot of that stuff. But
have I had a case stolen? 100%.
Sure.
Okay, cool. Noted for next time. I won't disclose everything to you next time or something like that, but
there's plenty to go around.
Exactly.
No doubt. So, all right. Mike Collazo, whatever you want to be called.
Hero.
Touche.
Yeah, there's a whole backstory.
Don't put that on.
Never told that story.
Never mind. Just go.
So let's talk about March 27th, 2023. Obviously, the day a lot of people's lives changed forever, yours included, mine, obviously, families and friends and all that. But you were at work, right? At CFIT at Midtown?
Yeah, so, working on CFIT then. We had just started our shift.
Okay. What time did your shift start?
Sometimes at 9, sometimes at 10.
Okay.
On this day, it started at 9. It was, first of the week. Sorry, I got distracted for a sec. It was a Monday, so we all get early because everybody's, like, trying to figure out what we're going to game plan for the week.
Yeah.
And, so we were all just sitting in the office. We had a new guy on the team, so we were trying to show him some things. And that's when everything kind of
Did y'all have a radio on with you? Or
so normally, like for us, we would keep all of our stuff in our car. our vests, our belts, anything like that we would need, ram pry, all that stayed in the car because that was our office outside of the office in the building. And we tried not to spend a lot of time in the building, but we would bring in a radio. Some offices would actually have a radio in there already, like a wall-mounted one, but we would have to bring our portable in, and we had the radio in. Usually Sarge would have it on. On this day, Eric had it in the office and had it on when we heard the tones and heard the call go out and said where it was and that it was in our precinct. So we actually took our front end out of the office, jumped in our cars, and took off to the school. So
you were at the station?
Yes.
During that time?
Yep.
In plain clothes, no armor on at the time, right? You're just sitting there and
yeah, we're kind of like what we're wearing right now. We're just sitting there doing admin stuff and just honestly, we were getting mentally prepared for the day and prepping everything and typing up emails, doing what we had to do. And
well, you very clearly knew where the school was, like
to an extent.
Yeah,
I knew about the school.
Yeah,
I had never been to the school.
But a lot of people, like, if you don't, as we talked about off air, and it doesn't matter who, why, when, whatever, but some people went to the wrong place that day because the way that's positioned up on that hill, if you don't know what's up there, it's going to get confusing in a hot second based on the address and all the office buildings around there and all those things. So obviously you knew it was up there because you got there, but talk to me about on the way there, what was happening? Like, what were you doing on the way there?
That's its own thing too. Like, nobody really understands that aspect of our job, and getting mentally prepared. We can train all day long, and our department, in all reality, you understand, our department does a phenomenal job training. They put on training seminars all the time at the academy. We're in service. We're trying to always be ahead of the curve. We neglect some things, but we're pretty good at training. But Bart Rader told us one time, he legitimately was teaching some of the room clearing and active killer stuff for our department. He told us, like, hey, you've got to look at yourself in the mirror and ask yourself if you can do this. And I remember driving on the way there, hearing some of the things happen and some of the things that they had taught us too, this whole, like, where am I at? What am I doing? And just getting mentally prepared. And I asked myself, like, hey, where are you at? What are you doing? And then I also flipped back to Bard and just thought, can I do this? Yeah. And I told myself I can. And so that mindset of driving to the school, I just kept telling myself, hey, you're almost there. You're getting there. I heard an officer key up say they were there, and my heart dropped even more. Yeah. I was like, man, I'm coming. Like, I'm trying to get there as quick as I can to you. But that mindset, just getting into that, it's tough.
Well, and not dying on the way there.
That
like when you're running an emergency in an unmarked car, that's something other people have to understand. Yeah, we have blue lights and sirens and those
but
things.
It's one little one.
And it's not like seeing a patrol car roll to an intersection. It's easily way more dangerous and a lot more difficult. For people that don't know, Bart Rader is a 20-something year veteran of the police department, 20-plus years on the SWAT team, and I'm proud to say is another one of my instructors who I think the world of. So,
and he laid that foundation. Him and all the other SWAT guys from back in the day, that brought this to our department, like, they laid that foundation and that mindset for us to get us mentally prepared there. Because I'll tell you, before we even get into everything else, after everything took place, I distinctly remember I'm standing off site. It's all 5 of us. I see Waterman walk by, who's one of the SWAT medics, who's taught our TECC and everything. And then I saw Jesse Freeland. He was on CSU with me back in the day, worked with us for a while. He had made SWAT. I saw him. Nobody knew who was involved. They heard some voices. Okay. They're still trying to put 2 and 2 together. People started seeing us off away from everybody else and secluded, and he hadn't put it together yet. But I saw him walk by, and I called him over and gave him, like, the biggest hug I could have ever given. And Jesse stinks, but I still gave him a hug. And if he ever hears this, he'll understand why I said that. But gave him a hug, and I told him, I was like, hey, man, will you tell all your cadre thank you? Yeah. He's like, for what? I was like, all the training days, all the times that they had to wake up and come at 5 a.m. to put on a room clearing block for us or something and spend all day teaching the same thing over and over again. And if they dreaded it on a certain day and they had to, take an energy drink to get the energy to do this, whatever, tell them thank you because it panned out for us today. Yeah. And, Bart being one of those. can't tell you how many times Bart's probably yelled at me during room clearing or anything like that, in that grandpa voice telling you messed up politely.
Yeah, that's a very good. Tracy calls him Papaw when he's teaching. So
I can't do that. I'm too scared of him.
He's got
nope. You're still there.
He's got the nickname. Waterman also, I know very well. Waterman teaches for us. All good people. So, but talking about on the drive there, going back to that, and that's something. If you've never run emergency before, period. If you're not in law enforcement or
it's scary,
especially in an unmarked car. But meanwhile, you back up. You leave the precinct to go get in your car. You don't have any equipment on.
No, it's all in the car. I actually got in trouble. Kinda. I got a nice hey, don't do that again. But we understood why you did it. Because I had no vest on, nothing. It's all in the car. Yeah. So my thought process was, what's been instilled in us is we're fighting time. We're trying to gain time back. So when I ran to the car, everybody else is running out the office too, getting in their car. Saw some of the guys on the team. They were outside the car putting their vest on. I figured I'll take that chance. And it is what it is. But I went out, got on a 2-lane road, which is part of the reason why I chose that. I had one little Dedu light up front, so I'm not going to get on a main thoroughfare or a busy street like Hillsborough Pike that's 5 lanes deep with 2 lights.
What road did you hit?
I ended up taking 12 South all the way out.
Okay. Yep.
Just because it's 2 lanes and I can just go. And it was easier to get through all that for me in my car. But I took I cheated a little bit. I cheated wherever I could, and that cheating was while driving. I just kind of took my knees and held the steering wheel for a sec while I grabbed my vest and threw my vest on, just trying to buy as much time.
Been there, done that.
Yeah. Threw it on, and, we keep talking about the mindset, and while we're driving there, that call text, the dispatchers, they were inundated with calls.
Yeah.
They were getting... I think I looked at it at one point up to like person 20 that was calling in, giving them information. So we've had hoax calls in the past. We treat them all the same no matter what. If we get a call at a school or at a church, we're going to treat it like it's real until somebody gets there and can determine it's not.
Yeah.
On this day, everything started to line up as, hey, no, this is real. Yeah. The different calls, the different, I don't want to say different descriptions, but the little differences in the descriptions led us to believe hey, these are different people calling, but they're saying the same thing just in a different way.
Yep.
And then hey, they're on the second floor, the first floor, or this and that, outside, inside. Things were coming in, which again, flipped that switch, telling us hey, no, this is real. You need to get ready. And that's when I resorted back to some of the old sayings and the old teachings from Bart and all the others. Hey, today's the day that we have been training for, because we knew a day like this would come.
Sure. So let's go back to equipment. You get your vest on while you're driving. You already have your pistol on you, I'm sure, because your pistol's on you. But so you have a pistol, full mag, your body. What's on your vest? You have spare?
So I had same vest I've always had for a long time, because that was just muscle memory. I have 2 mags on the front, and then I've got an AR mag behind that, and then I've got an admin pouch. It's all on one piece, so I can interchange it between vest. But that's all on my vest, and then some handcuffs. I've got OC spray because we have to have something else, another use of force, and then my pistol on my side. I tended to keep my rifle in the trunk, and then I always had either a RAM or a pry, and then a med kit in the back, because I'd gone through our NFD, got my EMT license, and was able to bring that back to the department. So I had all that in the trunk, and I had my ballistic helmet, I had the mic, everything set up, just staged in the trunk. But when I got on scene, it was just
So you came up Harding Place entrance?
Yep. I ended up going 12 South till it changes. And then, what does it change? Granny White, I think that's what it's one of the other main roads, but it's still a 2-lane. It just changes names.
Is it Granny White or Leland?
Granny White.
Granny White. Yeah.
I was going to say, it's either Granny White or Leland or something.
Yeah. So you took it all the way to
I took it all the way to
Hard Battery. And then,
and, you talked about an officer that got on scene first and went to the wrong address.
Yep.
I distinctly remember hearing that officer key up when I was turning right onto Harding.
Okay.
To then go towards the school. And that's when I was just like I said, the heart just dropped even more. I knew it's a school, so I knew children were in there. I knew teachers, admin, they're all inside there, and they're just praying for us to get there as quick as we can, because they're doing their job. But when you hear a coworker, somebody that you've worked with,
yeah,
somebody that you've, called at 1 a.m. asking some type of question because I don't want to screw something up. When you hear that person there, it hits even more at home.
Sure.
And all I could think was like, hey man, I'm coming as fast as I can.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna get there to you.
So you came up Harding Place entrance.
Yep.
What's the first thing you remember seeing?
Mary, Craig, and Matt.
Okay. Mary Craig Torter is director of development. I think is her title.
Yep.
And Matt is the campus pastor.
Yep.
And they were standing outside that entrance that Rex ended up opening later. Is that where they were when you saw them?
So the school had like 2 entrances on either side, or on the 2 corners of the school. I came up the middle one, and Mary and Matt were standing right in the open.
Okay.
Out in the open, where, you know,
I'm obviously very familiar with it. But
ultimately with what happens later on, we'll talk about, but where the individual ultimately starts shooting at officers, that's where Mary, Craig, and Matt were.
Okay.
Out in the open, just on the phone with dispatch. So I see them on the phone, so I know, hey, these are probably good people. I don't see a firearm in their hands. These aren't who I'm here looking for outside of getting information. And when I pulled up, luckily I had cut my siren and my lights off, and I'm in an unmarked car. It was a Camry. Doesn't really look like a police car all that much, but which might have helped. But as I pull up, Matt's right there. Matt runs up and points over and tells me, hey, the individual went in over there. And honestly, I looked at Matt and said, hey, man, that's cool. I don't know where over there is.
Yeah.
And Matt's like, hey, let's go, follow me. Like,
Okay.
without hesitation. And kudos to the guy. There's some strong people that day that stepped up tremendously, and those 2 for sure, and some other ones. But Matt's like, follow me. He takes off running, and I'm like, well, here we go. So I followed him over.
Let's pump the brakes for a minute, because I talk about this all the time, and I want people to know this about you and your decision making. At that point, you all had been told that it was a male in camouflage with a rifle.
Yes.
Because I have the police audio. You're in the armor you put on is soft armor, right?
Yep.
So for people that don't understand that, the civilian types that listen to this, so soft armor stops handguns. Soft armor doesn't stop rifles. They have armor that'll stop rifles, but that is usually in the vehicle, not worn all day, every day by most officers just because of the nature of their job. You also had a rifle in your possession, in your trunk, correct?
Yep.
And you left them both. Okay, so I think like it's. I know you don't want to say that but I think people need to understand that those 2 decisions doubled your chances of dying, but you did it anyway. I mean, I think it's fair. I know you don't want to obviously acknowledge that or take any credit for that, but we talk about Covenant every training we do, obviously, and I tell everybody that'll listen. I told the General Assembly today that like that's huge. Like and people don't necessarily wrap their head around that if they don't understand the job. So I want the audience to understand that you made those decisions to go on and enter in a much less safe posture than you could have been, because it was happening and there were kids in there. So I'll let you take it from there, but I want people to know that.
I appreciate that. And I mean, in all honesty, what was going through my mind was just time.
100%.
Yeah.
Seconds.
Like, that's just what kept repeating in my mind was
But dude,
the time.
Right. It wasn't your own safety.
Yeah.
It was the time.
The
and
time.
it was that's
And
huge. So I think people to know that.
And to piggy off that, though, I mean, to pass the buck a little bit to Mary, to Matt, and to all the other ones that stepped up, yeah, I had some type of armor. They didn't have nothing. Mm-hmm. They had nothing at all. And that's why I kind of talked a little briefly about them being out in the open. They legitimately have nothing but what they wore to school that day.
Yeah.
And they're on the phone relaying information to us. Talking to our dispatcher, saw me pull up and said, hey, follow me. I'm like, bro, I'm in your pocket. Let's go.
Yeah.
And Matt, but we'll piggy. I mean, Matt took me over there. Got
to the entrance where she went in. For people that aren't aware, she shot. I think the whole world knows now, but she shot through glass doors to enter the building. So there was broken glass
because the door was locked.
Yep.
School is doing a great job. I mean, to that point, I mean, having the doors locked, I can't tell you previously if they did lock their doors or not, or other schools in general. You can just walk into some schools and just go all the way around, and these are things that need to be addressed. And the school did what they could. They locked the door. Individual couldn't get in, so backed off a little bit and shot the windows through. But Matt had seen that, pulled me over there and told me that's where they went in. I never saw Matt again because I just jumped out and took off running, went in. kudos to Matt again. Matt could have just ran off into the woods
100%.
where some of the kids had gone. They had a plan, go to the fire hall. Matt could have ran right down to the fire hall and be like, all right, police are here, I'm gone. No, Matt ran back to where Mary was, and at that point, some of the cavalry starting to arrive. I go in. As I go in, I look over to the right, and I see one of the victims, Mike Hill. Mm-hmm. From everybody I've talked to, yes, he was a janitor, but that was his school.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
He had been there for years. He would go play in the gym with the kids. He'd coach the kids. Like, these were his children just as much as everybody else's. Mm-hmm. And Mike was the first individual or the first victim our individual came in contact with. Yep. I saw Mike. I got on the radio and advised, hey, I've got broken glass. I saw some shell casings scattered. Honestly, I just remember seeing yellow. Some people have asked, like, how did you know there were shell casings? I mean, well, our bodies are doing some crazy things at these moments, but I could tell these were shell casings. I can't tell if they were a rifle or pistol rounds, whatnot, but I got shell casings, and then I saw Mike. And that's another tough thing. And kudos again to our training folks. They've told us, like, hey, if I would have stopped to help Mike, which I wish I could have, 100%, sure. I think anybody would have loved to have tried to help because we don't know.
No doubt.
But if I would have stopped there, that's time that I could have been searching and hunting for this individual, and they could have been still killing individuals. So
and
you
job
have to
number
stop
one
it.
is stop the killing.
You have to go stop that killing. So it's tough, but I pushed right past Mike. Yep. Went down the hallway, and at this time,
the hallway he's in when he enters, just if y'all don't know the school, it basically is it ends up being at a T intersection. It dead ends into a T intersection.
And it led me to a gym. Right. And what we were kind of hearing at this time was first floor, second floor, fatigues. Because, again, time frame on calls and being received. So we don't know where the individual is. We know the individual's in school. We just don't know where. I had no stimulus. The individual wasn't actively shooting that I knew of.
That you could hear. Anyway.
Yeah, that I could hear. And we'll talk about that a little later, too. All I could hear was the fire alarm going off. Because the fire alarm was triggered when the individual shot through the windows to gain in. The debris kicked back and set off the alarm. But when I got through that hallway and I was moving and not hearing anything, I kind of stopped for a second and just made a decision on going into the gym. Where's a higher probability of coming in contact with? If I was in that person's mindset, I thought, hey, the gym might be full of children. Let me go in there. So when I went in there, I was actually dumbfounded. I was like, no one's in here. Thank God no one's in here, actually. Kids were all in lockdown. So I pushed through the gym, started kind of, honest to God, I started to get a little confused on my location, if you want to say, because sure. I've never been to the school. Yeah. But I pop out of the gym, and I look, and I saw I just came down that hallway. I was like, all right, no reason to go back that way. Let's go up the stairs. So I hit a stairwell, and that's when I heard Cagle. A teammate of mine, he keyed up, and he had said that they were at the gym entrance and they were making entry. I made a conscious decision at that point. Said, look, I'm by myself. Let's fall back and let's regroup and keep moving. It wasn't like we were losing time. We were just going to try to gain more resources to buy that time back if we needed. But I made that conscious decision. So I came back out. As I was coming out, I ran into Detective Wagner, another teammate who had just gotten on scene. And he looked at me and said, hey, where are they at? And I said, I heard the gym entrance. I was like, but I just went into the gym. Didn't see anybody. So we circle around, and then we go to the other gym entrance on the outside. And that is where, apologize, that is where Matt had ran back to. So Matt ran back, and at that point, Rex was actually arriving. And Rex goes to the trunk of his car. He retrieves his rifle, makes contact with Mary Craig, and then Matt hands him the keys. And then Rex opens the door, calls for two more. That was Detective Sergeant Mathis and then a patrol officer. They all go inside, and they start room clearing. They're hitting rooms that were open that the doors have been left open. No children were in there, but we ultimately go through that door and go upstairs. As they were room clearing, so we have one team now downstairs clearing, Eric and I had went into that same door. Didn't know that they were inside yet, but we were hearing second floor. So we said, all right, we're going upstairs. So we start to go upstairs, and we hit a locked door. Again, school doing a phenomenal job. Locked it down. Everything was on lockdown. So when we got to that door, I was pissed off. I knew I had tools in the trunk that we could have used to get through that door, but we made the decision, hey, backfill, back out again. We'll find another way. We're not going to fight this locking mechanism. It could take us 2 seconds. It could take us 2 minutes. I don't know what's behind this door, deadbolt wise, or if it's strong backed. Like, let's find another way. So we go back down, and as we go back down, Kegel's coming in, Plessy's coming in. See, Kegel and Plessy both have rifles. FTO and his rookie officer are with them as well in uniform. They had caught up with us. So we now have a good team. And then we hit the door. We go through the gym, and when we hit the gym door, we pop it open back into the hallway. We look down, and you can see Sergeant Mathis is several yards ahead of us, and he's holding at a T intersection. So what had happened then was, while we were going upstairs, Rex, the patrol officer, and Sergeant Mathis had room cleared down the hallway and got into the T intersection. Mathis stood covering long down the hallway, while the patrol officer and Officer Rex went to the right and started clearing down there. So we saw Mathis ahead of us, which told us everything's clear. Like, these rooms have most likely been cleared. We're making up time, so we haul down the hallway. We get to Mathis. People have kind of talked about this in training a lot, and it's one of those topics where, hey, while your adrenaline's going, you've got to let people know you're with them. It'd been great if we weren't talking, so nobody knew where we were, but who cares at the end of the day? Like, this situation, we're talking. And we're going to be very blunt with our actions. So when I got to Mathis, like, it was almost like I'm punching Mathis, letting him know, hey, we're with you, by hitting him on the back. So that told him, because he might not have been able to feel it if I just walked up and squeezed his arm. So it was a very, hey, I'm with you, let's go. Mathis took off. Our team pushed up. We started clearing some rooms, and we got to a stairwell. That door was actually open. So that's where we made the decision to, hey, last thing we had been told by dispatch was possibly on the second floor. We need to get up there. So we ultimately go up to the second floor.
Let me stop you real quick. So the T, just for people to understand, because obviously you and I know that school well, the T intersection where Rex split off and went right and all that's actually the main entrance of the school. So people that have seen the body cam footage or will watch it after listening to this, just so you understand, that's kind of what you're looking at. That's off to the right. There's a big circular desk in the middle. That's where the Diana sits, the front desk lady. So they were, and there's offices down there. There's rooms. There's a bunch of stuff to clear down there. Something you couldn't just bypass. But you and Jeff, ultimately, or I guess it was you, hit that stairwell you're talking about. Door was unlocked, and up the stairs you go. Yeah.
So I held on the hallway briefly.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Mathis goes first, and then followed up by Kegel and Plessy. As Plessy's going up, that other officer had caught up to us, and he catches up and tells us, like, hey, I've got this, you can go. Because we're all plain clothes. He probably put two and two together, like, hey, these guys they've worked together.
Yeah.
So he kind of yields back, says, hey, go. So then I peel off and I follow suit. I'm now in the rear with Plessy in front of me, Kegel in front of him, and Mathis. I hear Mathis on the second floor. He had popped the door going down the hallway, and he yelled that they had somebody down. He yelled that they had one down, and that's when I repeated back to him, so we all hear it. I said, hey, just keep pushing. Everybody relayed it back, and we kept moving down that hallway because we started to crest the stairwell. And if those that haven't seen the body cam or that are going to watch it after this, it's around that time you'll hear it on body cam. Shots are being fired.
Yep.
We didn't hear them. I sit back and think it was our body's way of, like, our body was doing crazy things during this moment. Audible exclusion.
Yeah, auditory exclusion is real, you guys. The people that don't know this stuff. So, like, if you look at Rex's body cam and he's out front, Mary Craig's talking to him, he doesn't hear anything she's saying. Like,
it's zoned.
Under adrenaline, yeah. I mean, tunnel vision's real, auditory exclusion's real. Like, it's a thing. Even for Rex on his body cam, when he's down there outside of Kelly's office, you hear them, like we hear the Monday morning quarterback in it, we hear the shots on body cam, but you see it takes them a minute for it to click.
Yeah, that OODA loop was going, but we were doing the same thing up top, and that's what I was going to say. So, like, we don't hear the shots until we're up on that floor. Rex was downstairs still.
Yeah.
He hears the shots in that OODA loop that, hey, what is that? And then you hear him actually say, that sounds like it's coming from upstairs.
Yeah.
And then Rex, like, phenomenal, takes off running, ends up, hitting that same stairwell with us, or hit that stairwell that we had taken, runs up the stairs. Another officer kind of yields to him and tells him, hey, you go. Rex runs up, and by that point, catches
because
right
he
up
had
to
a
us.
rifle. I mean,
yeah. Catches up to us because if you look at the timing and everything, he heard the shots before we did. Mm-hmm. We were still just moving, trying to hunt and trying to find our person with no stimulus. He's downstairs, offset from us, closer to windows, and can hear the individual shooting outside just on the other side of where he was, which put him in overdrive and caught up to us.
Yeah, for people to know, too, like at that point, what she was shooting at, she was posted up in a second floor window and was shooting at people that were outside the building from an ambush site. But those are the shots that they were responding to.
Yeah, so she's firing away. Rex hears it first, takes off running, catches up to us. By the time he catches up to us, we had heard the shots, and we started moving fast. So it all lined up perfectly. And we ended up linking up, if you want to say, at another T intersection. Because what happened was when we went down that hallway and we come into contact with Catherine, we pushed past Catherine and got to a T, and the firing had stopped for a moment.
Catherine is the head of school that was killed, and that's the victim they saw in that first when they came out of the stairs and turned right. Matter of fact, in the body cam footage, you see a victim blurred out on the floor, and that was Catherine. And
again, I think honestly, I think she did a phenomenal job for that school, and a whole bunch of other things. So I think she's always going to be one of the strongest females I wish I would have met.
Yeah, she was.
But we got to that intersection. We had a pause. We didn't know if it was to the right or left, but we knew it was close. Rex catches up. We now have five personnel on the team. We hear the shots coming from the right. We made the call, push right. Mathis goes first.
Was that you?
Yeah.
You hear it on the body cam say right.
Yep.
Okay.
We push right. Mathis has got a shotgun. He takes point at first, and then I followed suit with my pistol. It's got a red dot on it. Look back. You've got Cagle, Plessy, and Rex all with rifles. And we're starting to set up a formation as we're pushing down the hallway because everybody just knew, hey, find a spot, find work, keep moving. And look back briefly, and I saw Rex right there with the rifle with an LPVO on it. And in all honesty, it was just, hey, we don't know the distance, but we know it's up ahead. So I said, hey, push up with the LPVO. And, I mean, without hesitation. Never had worked with Rex before, by the way. Never. Without hesitation, this dude's just like, all right, let's go. Pushes right up to the front. He's now pointing for us. We hit a door. We all have to funnel in. As we funnel in, Rex, once he got out, he immediately pushed left. Mathis goes to the middle. I go to the right, followed up with Cagle and Plessy. And, I mean, Rex just gets an amazing angle on our individual. Individual was too focused on everybody outside, had no idea where we were, and Rex fired 4 rounds, striking our individual. Our individual lays down on the ground. You'll hear us yell, clear. You'll hear us yell, move. So we start to push back up. And as we're pushing up, our individual starts to bring the rifle back up.
The suspect.
Yes. As they start to bring the rifle up, we fire 4 rounds from my service pistol, striking the individual. And at that point, that person left this earth.
But we didn't fire 4 shots. You fired.
Sorry.
I mean, just I know you. I know what you're doing. I don't. Yeah. You're not trying to be. Mr.
No. This was a team.
100%. But when people watch the body cam, I want them to understand. Like they move up. Suspect still moving. Starts moving the rifle. You push right at Jeff. Just to get to for line of fire issues. You even give commands to stop moving and dump 4 more rounds towards the bad guy, and like you said, the bad guy left the earth.
Yeah. And they talk about like those that your heightened sense of everything, right? Mm-hmm. That barrel, when I was giving my interview afterwards, I distinctly remember that barrel was like 5 times the size it normally is, as it was expanding and like just coming up. And yelling, watch out, was to Mathis because it was coming up looking right at us. I was like, hey, man, like, we got to get off the line. Like, get off line because we were pushing in. And honestly, that was a mistake for us. We should have taken corners, and we went straight in.
Yeah.
And, you know, all the SWAT guys have told us, don't go in. You're going to have that tendency to want to do that. Don't do it. Take your corners, and we didn't. We did not take our corners like we should have. We were being drawn in by that barrel coming up, and it was like a flip of the switch to, like, try to say, watch out. Can't do 5 things at once, though. It's already hard to shoot and move. Now you're doing other things. But, yeah, that barrel got really big pointing at us. And, again, I tell everybody, once that situation was handled, our work wasn't done. We had to flip another switch and go into that mindset of saving lives even more. The whole medical aspect, setting up corridors, doing everything that we could. We had to start that phase of it while still room clearing and searching because we didn't know if there was another one.
Let's pause for a second. I didn't want to cut you off, but a lot of the people listening to this won't know what an LPVO is. So you actually say the words push at LPVO because you obviously didn't even know Rex's name at that point. And LPVO stands for low power variable optic. It is a type of scope that sits on top of a rifle that has more magnification than, say, a red dot does. Pretty common optic for law enforcement, military. It on low power, if you will, i.e. for you non-gun types, not super zoomed in, you can still run it like a red dot, but it also gives you the ability to shoot from distance with more magnification, so good call. By the way, I told you this on the phone, but we did a walk through the crime scene. Hardest thing I've done in my life, but I walked that shot off and it was 14 and a half yards, and that is not high percentage with a pistol on the move. Like that was calling up the rifle was 1,000% the right call in that moment, without question. So the people that don't understand tactics or whatever, because we don't have a huge audience by any means, but our audience are everyday people, teachers and cubicle employees and things like that. So that's why I really want to kind of break it down. So at that point, you put out suspect down on the radio, but you're right, work's not over. You don't know if there's another shooter. You don't know how many victims there are to treat. Explain what you mean by setting up corridors.
Yeah.
Most people don't know what that means.
So we knew 2, or at least I knew 2.
Sure.
I knew for sure we had 2 victims, Mike being one, Catherine being another. At that point, we didn't know about the other 4. But we have to, get these victims that we know of out somehow, some way. We're still fighting time, even though this individual's gone. Our clock has started back over on the victims. So what we ultimately did was Rex and Cagle continued room clearing. They go through some other rooms and start room clearing in case there's another individual. We've had instances in the past where there's been more than one shooter. I ultimately run back out and start setting up the corridors for our medical team to come in. Mathis and Plessy remained with our individual, our shooter upstairs.
Well, explain to Joe Civilian what set up a corridor means.
Yeah, so when I got outside, what we wanted to do was everything that we had previously cleared, we wanted to secure it, and we wanted to lock it down so we own it at that point. Right. So as more officers were arriving, some self-deployed, they're on the other side. We didn't know that, but that's fine. We have contingencies in place for that. So what we did was I got on the radio and said, everybody come to me. Here's this door. This is the door we're coming in at. So as officers filled in or got to where I sent them in groups, whether it was 2, 4, however many. And if a medic was with them, I'd put a medic with them. They would go in and they would start room clearing again. And as they cleared rooms, they would post up an officer on that room or on that hallway, having a line of sight with another one, and they would work their way down the hallway. So now if somebody else comes in, we're not wasting time continuously clearing the same rooms over and over again.
You're setting up corridors.
We're setting it up, and now we have line of sight so we can communicate with each other either by radio or by sight and yell. And then now I know if these 3 officers are in this hallway and they're across from each other working their way down, I know this is clear. I can run down this hallway and not have to clear it anymore. But
you went to get the people, and it was appropriate for you,
yes,
or one of the 5 of you, because you had the most intelligence about what had already been done, yes, in the building. So yes, again, I just want people to understand why.
but again, that was a mistake on us, and it was a lesson learned for us. I ultimately went out on the opposite side of where I'd went in at, and this was just an issue for me. Higher probability of victims on the other side, where
I mean the other side of the building. You exited the opposite side of the building you went in.
Yeah. If we would have started over there, it's probably a higher probability of coming in contact with possible victims, because that's where everything started, instead of on the other side where everything was finished, because the school had locked everything down. And in hindsight, now we learned that there were other victims on the other side, and it was a mistake that I made where I was sending in everybody on this side to set up corridors and do things, as officers were screaming on the radio, yelling at me, saying they had victims. And I'm like, hey, they're coming. We're sending folks in. They're like, in all reality, I'm so glad they did it. They basically told me to shut up, and made the right decision and grabbed the victims and started running outside with them, because it was taking too long to get our corridor set up to them.
You know, I mean, I'm sure you know at this point, but you know none of those victims were treatable, right?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, I think it's important for you to know that those four especially.
These things we learned later, 100%. But at the end of the day, like, we're not here to take lives. That's not our job. Or that's not what we signed up to do, or wake up every morning and say, today's the day I'm going to kill somebody. That's not what we do. Our job is to save lives. Yep. If I have to take a life to save somebody, I will. And we did that day. But we wanted to save as many. And, it did suck hearing it didn't matter. There was no chance of surviving, but at the end of the day, like, we wish we could have.
Sure.
But they like I said, they told me to shut up and loaded those kids up. And
before that happened, so I know this, but most people don't. So you went out and door locked behind you, and so you're trying to lead the team back in, and obviously your adrenaline is squirting out your ears at this point, but the doors are locked. So you donkey kicked
it did.
a tempered glass door and shattered it to make entry back into the building.
I ripped my boots too.
I believe you did. And then kind of a light moment, so we can light this up just a smidge. It's a 2-layer foyer entrance to the school. So there's 2 sets of doors. So you donkey kick out the far right one. And I remember seeing that door when we were walking the crime. I mean, we spent 2 days there, and I'm just like, I wonder what happened with that door. I guess it was police breaching, coming in, had to have been. Well, but it was both sets of doors that were breached, right? And so what's kind of funny is after you breach the first one, you're in there, adrenaline squirting out yours again, kicking on that second one. And 4 doors down on that same wall, your buddies are opening the door because that one's actually unlocked. But
didn't know that.
You kicked through this. Well, I mean, you're fighting time.
Yeah.
Like, you're not thinking about that. But the interesting thing, and I told you this on the phone the other night, is I've used that body cam footage of yours and Rex to talk about leadership, because we hit on this earlier in the show, but rank is not leadership, right? Decision making under stress, making decisions, even if it's not the best decision, the willingness to make a decision, put yourself in harm's way, go in under-equipped, like all those things, that's leadership. And you showed a lot of leadership after the shots were fired too, by going and getting those people and bringing them in and setting them. I mean, again, you can nitpick yourself all day about the decisions you made and what you should have done, and you should, right? We should do that. We should do an after action to get better. We all should do that. But at the end of the day, you showed a tremendous amount of leadership by doing that, because you're not a supervisor. You're not, like. But being a supervisor and being a leader are two different things. 1,000%. So,
and one's on paper and one's action.
100%. And your actions obviously spoke for themselves. And again, everybody understands why the decisions were made that were made. And eventually, I think it was 5 officers were involved in picking up those kids.
Yeah.
And carrying them. And I know the ambulances were not close.
And that was my fault. Again, I mean, I call them up and I put them in a spot, and
but there were other officers that made the call to block the road because they were shooting at the police, which caused other law enforcement tremendous amount more time to try and get up that hill on foot, because if you've never been up there, it is a mountain, and that was not the right call either, because if they're shooting at us, i.e. the good guys, they're not shooting at kids. Yep. So that's exactly what should have happened.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because we made a promise, and I'm sorry it took so long to actually talk about that. Detective Wagner.
We'll back up and tell people.
Yeah, so he was the one that I mentioned that I ran into.
First one that you ran into.
That I ran into when I was coming outside of the gymnasium, coming back outside. And we had that brief conversation. Hey, where are they at? He said, hey, heard the gym. Like, let's go to the gym entrance. He was with me when we went upstairs the first time and hit the locked door. If you listen to the body cam, you'll hear Eric say, Collazo, I don't have my radio. And in all honesty, I'm kind of like, at that moment, back to the other thing with Matt, like, hey, bro, I don't care if you don't have a radio. Like, stay in my pocket. Let's go. And something triggered on him to tell him, no, go get my radio. So when we went back downstairs and linked up with Cagle and Plessy and the FTO, and we link up and go down the hallway, Eric went back outside. And,
to get his radio.
Yeah, to get his radio. And we never saw Eric again for that entire incident. Eric went out to go get his radio, which drew fire. As he is going to get the radio, he's basically playing Frogger in between his cars, bouncing around, trying to take cover from our individual who's keying in on him from the second floor window, offset of the window, using angles to their advantage and keying in on Eric and my commander and Mary and responding other officers. But we tell Eric all the time, man, like, that was your purpose that day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Something drew you outside, not just to get your radio. Something was forcing that. And believe in what you want to believe in. We have our thoughts. And that was his role. It led us to where our individual was.
It gave you your stimulus.
Yes.
That you needed to find them.
And it was not at kids in the school.
Exactly.
Those shots were going
he was
outside.
taking rounds that weren't being fired at children. And same with all the other officers. Same with our commander, who was hunkered down with Mary Craig behind a car.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Do you know,
love Dayton.
So Mary Craig, too, that woman's got ice in her veins. First of all,
goodness.
her shoes were still on the sidewalk days later. She kicked her shoes off so she could run barefoot if she had to. But she's behind the car. So with Commander Wheeler, they're taking cover because she's shooting at them now. And Mary Craig is literally behind the car with that group me chat they had going, looking at Dayton going, what do you want me to tell them? This is as bullets are flying over their head.
And this is a teacher.
You're not.
Admin. They didn't sign up for this.
Well, I've told her a million times. I'm like, you're not normal. That you have ice in your veins.
I'll tell her that next time we go have dinner.
After we did their training, I like to do video testimonials and interview the people we trained. And we did that there at Covenant. We interviewed 5 people on camera, Catherine being one of them, Mary Craig, a few others. And we never put the video together just because of the time. We were busy. But I went back and watched the interviews because it was more therapeutic for me. I just kind of wanted to see Catherine again, And so, for people that don't know, Catherine was a friend of mine. And the training we did with the school was a year to the day prior, which is really creepy. But Mary Craig, in her interview with me, told me on camera, and I didn't remember this, but she said, after this training, I now have the confidence in my coworkers to protect my own children who are in this building. And if that wasn't evident by the fact that she left and went out there to meet and do her, like, you talk about ice in your veins. Like, your kids in there, like, that's there's a lot of incredible people in there. I mean, I don't want to focus on her. I mean,
well, I hate to say I was about to again because I go and talk, and I went.
You give speeches on this stuff.
I distinctly remember an SRO came up to me at one of the conferences, and she says, "Hey, I need help." So, okay, what's going on? I thought it was going to be something else, but she goes, and I was not ready for this question. She said, "How do I take care of the school that my children go to if I'm the SRO?" I was like, what do you mean? Like, break it down a little. I was a Marine. I eat crowns. I need help. Break it down a little bit. She goes, how can I not worry about my own children while an incident's occurring and have to take care of everybody else? It's like, how do I do this? And honestly, I was like, I don't know. And then I thought about Mary and said, well, you know what? Mary's kids were in that room. Mary didn't stop what she was doing just to go save her own kids. And she didn't do a selfish act like that. She stood back and said, I actually have to help take care of everybody. Not just, it's like, you have to live that mindset and you have to put yourself in Mary's shoes and something like that. Like, and if you can't do that, and I told her, in all honesty, like, if you can't make that conscious decision, then it's not the right spot for you.
No doubt.
But
yeah. Well, talking about mindset, you hit on it earlier on the drive there and everything else. And I want to ask this question in full disclosure. This question came from Adam, so that I give credit where credit's due. But his question is this, and Adam's sitting in the room, by the way, people that don't know, he's just part of our team. What are some contributing factors to building that mindset you had that day to make that decisive action to go? Like, let me ask you this instead of, would you say, how important would you say your training was? I know you've hit on it already, but as far as your confidence, so like Uvalde is a good example. Like, I don't think Uvalde cops were a bunch of cowards. What I saw in Uvalde was a bunch of cops with an extreme lack of confidence in their room clearing ability. And that's what we had there. Knowing that if people like you, people like Adam, people like me that have done a lot of room entry, a lot of search, all those things, Uvalde would have been a very different story. If people with that skill set and that training had been there, that door would have been hit and that would have been dealt with. So I say all that to say, I think that your confidence in your room clearing ability, not cockiness, confidence in your competence to be able to hit those doors, do things well, do them confidently. Do you think that was the biggest factor, or is there something else that played a bigger factor in your mindset?
No, I think that's it. It goes back to that training. Our department, y'all's just like it. The stress inoculation, the trying to make it as real as we can. So if that day did come, which it did, we were prepared and we knew what we were going into. But again, we made 100 mistakes. Our room clearing was not great, but we made decisions and we kept going. That we never hesitated. Some people have asked, like, oh, that push, was that, why were you pushing? Were they hesitating? Were they scared to take that? No, that's not what that was.
No, it's just what you do. It's just.
Nobody that went in that day in that core group hesitated at any point. And I roots back to the training. We were prepared. Our department did the best they could for the crappiest situation an officer can handle and just got us to the point where we were confident enough. We knew we were making the right decisions.
Well, I know that's true because so the guys in the plain clothes are going to be a lot more confident in their ability to do what they were doing. Like you saw it in the way Jeff made entry when Rex first opened the door and Jeff stepped through. That's Mathis, by the way, people don't know. With that shotgun. There was no hesitation. There was no, oh my gosh, quick peek this. No, but it's because he's done it so many times because of the type of unit he worked in. And most law enforcement don't do that. They don't do high-speed room entry, dynamic entry. Like most cops never do that. If you're not in SWAT or narcotics or some kind of specialized unit, you're not going to do that. So it's obvious. And the reason Rex was flowing so well, even though he's in patrol, one thing most people don't know about Rex, but
he was going through basic. Or he was getting ready for tryouts.
But he spent a lot of time, effort, energy, and money on his own training. And had been to his own training classes. Like there's a small percentage of law enforcement that does that and spends money to go to outside training. And it's not most, to be honest with you, but he did and he had. So, by the way, one decision Rex made, I think people need to know about too, is Rex got his rifle out, but not his heavy gear.
Nope.
So you and he both went in there were wearing the equivalent of a T-shirt. I mean, you can say all day, like, well, we had armor and they had nothing. Well, no, you didn't. You, considering the weapon system you were up against, you were wearing a T-shirt, dude. So,
well, but that was all the officers, basically, from my understanding from that Core 5 group, when we went in, it was just what
that's
we
right.
had.
But even the officers you see in the body cam that are patrol, that are obviously less confident and had done it less, they're still in there. Yeah. And they're still holding those hallways and they're still pressing the fight. But they let the guys that clearly had more experience and more capability push the fight, which is not a bad decision.
I don't think it was it's not a hesitation again. It's hey, I'm making a conscious decision in a very stressful, hectic situation that is a good decision.
Yeah.
And that, again, that just falls back on all of it. Our higher ups realizing we need training, we needed all this, we need to put money towards all these things. The helmets, the plate carriers, all that stuff.
That you left.
That we left.
Glad they bought it.
Yeah, but we left it.
Well, and there's a lot of people that wouldn't have done that.
No.
And so I think that's huge to say. Obviously I give you guys credit where credit's due. When you got there and finally made entry, y'all crushed it. But most people don't know, they do now if they're listening to this, that you were actually the first person in the building. It wasn't Rex. I don't know why the police department didn't anyway, it is what it is. But I know that. And you went in at the 11-minute mark. When Rex sticks the key in the door, it's the 12-minute mark. So, that whole event, though, it's
a long time.
It's evil versus the teachers.
Yep.
And those teachers, I mean, you know this, but most of the audience doesn't. Every victim that was killed was killed less than 3 minutes.
Yeah. So
once they realized what was happening, she didn't get anybody else after that. And those teachers are a special group of people. I mean, you and I both, we said this off air, have seen cops freeze under less stress than they were under.
Yes.
And they didn't.
And that's what, like, hitting that locked door, I remember I was so pissed off.
Right.
But looking back, it's like, no, that they did their job.
Yeah.
They bought us time. They saved hundreds of lives that day. And I wish, like, they keep doing all these things for us, the core five, doing this and that. And I'm like, in all reality, it's the teachers. It's Catherine. It's Mike. It's everybody that was there that day that stepped up. Give them this.
Yeah, I don't know if you know Anthony McGowan is Mike's best friend's the other facilities guy. He went to the fire panel when the fire alarm went off, and he was headed down to that hall. And you obviously know the layout of the school real well. He was headed down to where that sensor was going off, coming from his office, which is kind of near the fellowship hall, now that you know the whole building. And as he passed the doorway to the stairs that she went up, that's an automatic closer on that door, right? The door was still closing as he walked by it. That's how close he was to encountering her. And then obviously at the top of the stairs, or halfway where she was, where she shot the kids. And Mike was his best friend too, so there's a whole thing there. But I think, I know a lot of people know the story or whatever, but I think knowing the whole story is super important. That event changed a lot of people, but obviously none of us is as impacted as those 6 families, right? But I mean, it changed a lot of people for a long time, and I know there's a lot of officers that changed forever. I know there were 5 officers involved in carrying those kids to ambulances, and I know one of them never went back. I don't blame him. I mean, it's not for everybody. So you guys got to understand that, most people don't call the cops because they're having a good day. That's usually not why you encounter law enforcement. It's because something great has happened in your life, So people forget that you're an everyday person. You're a human. Okay, you have a different job. I said this earlier, but they've got to understand that mental trauma is real, and you better have a plan to deal with it. And we talk about that in our training, because this will be mentally traumatizing, and that goes with you for a long time. The way we articulate that is, just because you survived an event doesn't mean you survived the event, because the trauma goes with you. And I'll never forget Catherine, when she was talking to us about doing the training, she said, I want to see it first. She came and sat through the training with her husband, actually at another school, and said, I don't know when we're going to do this or how we're going to pay for it, but we're doing it. And she was adamant about getting knowledge in the hands of her teachers to be able to at least know to do something instead of do nothing. And, between that and your decision making and your ability to prepare and all the things that happened that day, all things considered, I don't think it could have gone any better. Would have made a difference if there'd been somebody shooting back earlier, certainly. I know it's not what a lot of people want to hear. It's more guns in schools, and I get it. It's a whole different conversation. But there are things we can do, and there are things we can continue to do to make our city safer, schools safer, the environment safer, make our cops better. And obviously, to your point, training, but then the level of training, right? The level of delivery, i.e. the instructors, right? There's a lot of people that could go teach that information and aren't going to be a good instructor, and they're not going to deliver it well. Yeah. So thankfully, Metro does have that.
Well, and you just kind of brought up some other thoughts that I was having while you were talking about that real quick.
Sure.
We talk heavily and we teach heavily about the attack, if you want to say, the incident itself, but we don't spend a lot of time on the post-incident, everything afterwards, from, second one afterwards all the way till here recently.
Sure.
And that's why you were talking. I didn't want to be rude, but I was looking at my phone because just yesterday, got a text message from one of the parents, just introducing themselves, and I'm not going to say their name, but they had children at the school. Text me at like 8:00 in the morning in a novel, just talking about everything. And honestly, yesterday I wasn't feeling good, and I was like, I'm probably going to call out. And then when I got that text and I kind of read it, kind of put life back in perspective again. I was like, okay, get up, stop crying about not feeling good. Put your pants on, go to work. Yeah. I told her that. I was like, hey, in all reality, like, you just gut checked me again. But I bring that up because this is 2 years almost now, and we're still healing. We're still going through things. That was a healing thing for that mother to text and say something.
Sure.
And again, it opened it back open for me. But we don't do a lot of talking about all this afterwards. And y'all have done a phenomenal job. When we talked the other day, hearing the things that y'all did for the funerals and for the families, and even at the 1 year anniversary, being out there with them, these are things that nobody really ever sees afterwards. When the news is gone, when society's moved on, but our community's still healing, this is what we all have to be here for. Now, Nashville's a great city. We're amazing. Everybody's in everybody's business somehow, some way. Yeah. You got a cousin that's a brother and a sister of somebody that's dating whoever. Yeah. But I think for such this horrible incident to occurred, something beautiful has come from it, and it's all these relationships. It's everything that's coming about. And you keep hinting at it or saying it, the evil. Our community and our school and all that, we're not going to let that evil person and that evil incident win. We're going to strive to continue and set, ultimately like a textbook of what should happen during the incident and even after the incident. We did a lot of good after, though.
And you not talk tonight about some things we're working on, and I'll just leave it there. But if you don't want to, it's fine. But you shared with me like all the event happened, all the post-event stuff you have to do, and then it's literally like you have to just be normal again. I've talked to Adam, who you met earlier, talking about combat deployments. Like literally yesterday, you're in Afghanistan getting shot at with rockets and mortars, and today you're sitting in Kroger grocery shopping with your wife. How do you? So you told me an interesting, and if you don't want to share it, it's fine. But about the post-incident stuff that we don't like, transitioning your brain and your body to be totally normal, and then seeing your kid, like all those things. So like,
I mean, that's that proactive approach, right? That we're very proactive on teaching the events on how to handle it with, pushing to the thread and, hide, fight, all that stuff. We're good at that. Bring in that aspect too. But hey, also remember, if this does happen, here's what's coming down the line. You're going to have triggers. You're going to have these. You need to be able to see these things. I remember a couple years prior to the incident, they had some mental health folks came to our roll call and were talking to us. And they told us, like, hey, if you're ever involved in a critical incident, let's say you drink every night when you get home. You drink 2 or 3 beers at night, or you drink a glass of wine with your dinner every night. You get involved in some, don't change that. Stay doing your same habits, because once you start changing it, things get worse. But also here's signs to recognize things. And what you were speaking about, what was going on, I should have saw signs. I knew about the signs. I knew these stressors were happening. And for those, I had a 4-year-old daughter at the time. My wife was pregnant. She was at home when everything happened. Went home, hugged her, went to go get our daughter. Some things happened when we went to go get our daughter, and I should have known. But again, these are things that we could have done better afterwards on being prepared, because I put myself back in the same situation of going into a school to grab our daughter with locked doors and writings on the wall, pictures that kids drew, backpacks, all that, being post 5-6 hours from the incident. And I wasn't ready for that. The department, honestly, I wish they would have stepped up and sent somebody there, but that's a lesson learned for next time.
Sure.
For anybody else. But we were very proactive on the mental health aspect, and I just wish I would have actually listened in on that. I was too eager to get our daughter.
Understandable.
Yeah, I just wanted her in our arms to make sure she was safe. And then again, we locked down for like 3 or 4 days inside the house and didn't leave. And I was like, we're not going nowhere.
Yeah.
But it's just being ready.
Yeah.
In all aspects, not just the fight; it's everything after.
That's right. Post incident.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, again, just all of it is important, and it all works together. So, I know this was obviously, I mean, some of it was fun, but a lot of it was heavy. But I really wanted the whole story out because there's so many things that are so important about the decisions you guys made that day that y'all aren't going to toot your own horn and tell people, but we do all the time. Because obviously, like I told you, we present on this very sadly almost daily because it's part of our training now because of all the remarkable things that happened that day, not just the tragedy. And I mean remarkable on both sides with that faculty and staff and obviously with you guys working together and taking the fight to evil. You were in that school. You saw everything I saw. You saw more. And, you know, again, you brought up earlier, I don't care what higher power you believe in. I'm a Christian, and I'm here to tell you that Satan walked the halls of that school. Like, there's no question about it. But he didn't win, and that's also important to talk about because, you know, there are people that are willing to stand in the gap, and that's you guys, and that's those teachers who have the heart of a teacher. And they're there for a reason. So we really appreciate you coming and doing this. I know you talk about this a lot. I know it's heavy for you too. But I appreciate you sharing your story, the before, during, and after, because I think that's just as important. I think it'll help a lot of people to understand a lot more about these events and kind of what's coming down the pike if you ever face one of these. And the reality is you're probably never going to face one. They're super low probability, but they are super high impact. And so we as a society have to be at a place where we understand, hey, this is an issue. And there are things you can do to better prepare your organization, your church, your school, whatever it is, to potentially face evil. So thanks, and thanks for what you did that day, what you continue to do, and getting out of bed yesterday and going to work even though you felt like crap. And thanks to the Covenant Mom, whoever you are, we'll say anonymous, for motivating this guy to get his butt to work. And yeah, it's a thankless job. And for those that don't understand, law enforcement is so shorthanded right now. They're asked to do twice as much as they were once because of the resources are so short. So if you guys see a police officer, my suggestion to you is to tell them thank you. They don't get that enough. Nobody calls the cops because they're having a good day. So I think it's important that they remember you guys are people and all the things I said earlier. So with that, we're going to wrap up this edition of Tips, Tactics, and Tools for a Safer Tomorrow. If you need more information or want to reach out to us, you can reach us at info@tipstacticstools.com. And with that,
Bye.